he was missing a toe, and I didn't know that until we were doing some theater exercises, and he had taken off his shoes and socks, and I happened to look down, and he was missing a big toe, and kind of disturbing. And then years later, I thought about this after I had lost something very important to me. So it's called lost toe. A man had lost a big toe on his right foot. He insisted on going barefoot whenever it was hot. Yes, people stared. You stared. A man had lost something, and the shame we felt crusted like raspberry jelly at the point of departure. We wished he'd cover it in wool, in leather. We wished the weather would bring its cold feathers to bury it. To this day, I think that the empty spot on his foot, I think of the empty spot on his foot, remembering my anguish and believing he lost it so long ago, he could not remember to hide it. Therefore, I keep spare socks by the door. They are for my guests, for their shame, in case I've forgotten to cover anything that's not there. You never get claps on the first poem. Thank you. Let's see. I hate to say it, I have not figured out. Yeah, I'll read this one here. I went. Anybody been to Lake Force Point? Thank you very much. Thank you. My wife and I did that one time. We decided it would be fun to go walking through all of the trails on a Saturday in the middle of June. It was not fun. Well, it was fun, but you know, at any rate. But it was a great experience. So anyway, this poem is called Lake Force Point. She and I hid from the mists of mosquitoes, wings feeling for us, seeking nostrils, mouths, giving wheeze to the long hot day, while our strides were cut by pine roots and mud. I looked at everything, palmettos reaching out of the earth, cudgels of cypress, the sunlight tinctured by tupelo leaves, and stumbled at every glance until she taught me ears were eyes, hear the wild. Then I watched the scratching of the armadillo, saw the approach of the cottonmouth in the wind-faint crackling of the leaves. Finally, in absolute silence, the enormous grace of the heron, terrifyingly blue, drove into my ear and swept out toward its perch. The thunder broke free when it lighted, as though leaves of stone crumbled in its grip. There are many places like this, she said, whose silence hides the life that's there. Together, quietly, we coiled our arms. Let's see. I don't want to scare the child. More than I already have. Okay, I'm going to read something. Okay. This inspires me to read this poem about my son. I will preface this by saying that I wrote this at a time my wife and I were getting a divorce, and so I was very concerned about him. So I wrote a number of poems about him, and this is the one that I'm going to read right now. It's called For My Son. In your blonde hair, the figures clash. Her white and rapid skin, a type of light, and the dark calmness growing from my flesh which caused her. A river attended your conception, so there are tears to applaud as we reconceive ourselves. Void your mind of those angry lullabies we rock your sleep with as we break our marriage like a toy. We have shaved our religion down to a prayer, that beneath the scabs of our hearts, you were being healed. You don't have to clap for every point. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to read something fairly different. This is an older poem of mine. I wrote it, I don't even remember when I wrote this thing. I've never read it in public before, so I'm a little bit nervous. Well, I mean, you know, as much as well, I'm not that nervous. Okay. Has anybody been to Topsy, Louisiana? Yeah, that's my point. No, right? Is it like Eunice to some people? Yes, those people are from New York City. Yeah, exactly, yes. It is a, you know where Reeves is? Yeah. It's a suburb of Reeves. Yeah, I know that. Okay, there you go, there you go. And has anybody ever eaten government cheese? Yeah. Okay, well, all right. Well, this poem, it's about what it's about. It's about my first experience in Topsy with a good friend of mine, and I hesitate to read it because my ex-wife shows up in this thing. But at any rate, I don't know if this poem really means anything at all. It's just exactly the stuff that happened while I was up there. So, but I thought, I was looking at it, I said, maybe this will be kind of fun to read. So it's called Government Cheese. I tripped the first time I tried to set foot on the floor of a VFW. Topsy, Louisiana, 1988. Brett Reeves helped me stagger up to the slouched boards running out from the bar. He knew all drunks, ducked all fists, and danced with every girl whose face was flattered by mascara and thick bass. I was sick with love for his cousin, stroking the hair of a sleeping fisherman somewhere east of Durango. My palms pined for her small breasts. It was Hank Jr., it was Randy Travis, it was Donna Fargo singing, "Timber, I'm Falling in Love." It was David Allan Coe. It was the jukebox and pipe fitters peeling off bud labels and longshoremen home from slinging sacks of rice. It was deer season and half the bar was on unemployment while they hunted, and some other half was drawing disability and hunting, and all were union men and hated Reagan. "Rear up on it, hoss!" Brett howled and tossed me to a stool, and there I sat, reaping conversation about the governor and stock prices and the leaders of the local in cahoots with management, not a word of which interfered with my lips on a long neck, my longing for Brett's cousin's lips interfering with my neck. And when the old men threw up their hands, and the young men threw up their fists, and the girls threw up, we hit the roads in Brett's brother's truck, a Ford, dust flaring at the wheels, a cancer of rust on the tailpipe. Jim Beam passed among us in the cab as the headlights grabbed pine trucks to steady our passage until we stopped short of driving in the river, and laughed at luck and fate conflated. Brett and I rumbled into his grandmother's kitchen late enough to be waking up. Hungry, we rustled in the Frigidaire until Brett spied government cheese. "Ma gets it monthly. Best cheese you ever had." He gutted the plastic and sliced off nuggets. Government cheese, shining on our tongues. We noticed a prayer above the stove. "O Lord of pots and pans and things." Only government cheese kept our laughter from shaking loose the sleep from the house. We took our waking carefully. Yolks ran into sponges of toast. Sunlight saturated the rags of our eyelids. Nothing could force us to hunger. Uncle Wayne was making sausage. in a tin-roof building behind his house, the bodies of pigs twisting in the grinders were screwed into casings. The building, oh, sorry. I stepped out to smoke. In the bed of a pickup, one pig clattered its hooves. Someone came up, lowered the gate, and children gathered around. His hand, his whole arm hung from a pistol and jumped at the pop. The pig screamed and tap danced on steel. Ascending above him, a thin, bright jet of blood arced through the winter air. Okay. Something a little different. Let's see. I should be better at this than I am. How about something? This is a recent poem. Let me read something fairly new. Anybody here from Morse? Nobody from Morse? Okay. Then good. Then you won't be offended by this poem. No, I'm just joking. It's not really about Morse. But there is, as Dr. Fondo alluded to, my wife and I are working on a book of pictures and poems. We've been taking photographs from around the area, and then I've been writing poems to correspond to the photographs. There is a stained glass window in the Church of the Immaculate Conception in Morse that's very interesting. It's got all of these different, well, let's put it this way. The one picture we have, there's a picture of Christ's hands, right? You can tell because they've got nail holes in them. And they're coming down in a very typical way, a healing way. But what they're focused on is not a person, but a handicap symbol. You know, the wheelchair handicap symbol. So it's like Christ healing this handicap symbol. Now, I thought, what an interesting juxtaposition. Something very traditional, and then something very modern. And so I said, what can I do with that? So I wrote this poem. And, well, take it for what it's will. It's called, obviously as a reference to the Gospel of St. John, Take Up Thy Bed and Walk. I was in the Dollar General parking lot. I saw him crossing Moss Street. The cars just missing his placid stride. Jesus, I said, not cursing, but naming. The marks were unmistakable. The long hair, the acne of thorn scars, the white clothing that looked like a hospital gown. Jesus walked on Moss Street toward me. His sandals stepped onto a flattened big gulp cup. It regained its form, stood upright, filled with ice and mountain dew. The briny shellfish smell from crawfish time just up the road blew through his palms. He advanced upon a green El Camino, parked in the handicapped spot containing a woman. I knew her. Tante Cochon, we called her. She had thighs like hams, and her dress was droopy with faded flowers. She struggled to get out, leaning on her cane with its black rubber tip. He approached her, and I saw his arm begin to rise. His fingers formed their familiar pose of blessing. In her struggle, Tante Cochon was sweating. I saw his lips part, his chest rise with breath. I saw his hand reach out to her with slow and measured grace. I saw her crack him over the head with her cane. Now, what would you expect? Okay. Let's see. Here's a short one. It's a little dark, I suppose. It's called Lime. The split halves rock when it's knifed in two. Finally, a finger pushes a wedge into a beer. Drink up, my darling, as I break this bottle and hold the jagged edge aloft like liberty. How can there be two of us if we're not cut? Yeah, no applause for that. Okay, let's see. This is one that if you've been in Manual Hall and kind of gone back and forth around the liberal arts office, you've seen hanging on the wall. And since it's Dr. Berg has informed me that it is turtle season again, I will read this. It's called "Dodging Turtles on the Branch Highway." It's almost enough to declare God dead, this red flesh and battered shell scattered across the road. When the cold flint of February skies sparks into March, the sun fires them, and they arise from rice fields and begin to cross this crumbling passage of Louisiana blacktop. I cannot say determined. Something more mysterious is in play besides a will. But with unswerving, patient force, drawn or driven, they lumber in their shells on tiptoe, hazarding the wheel. I set my gaze far ahead on days of their migration. I look for gentle perturbations. I watch for rocks that move. It is a simple thing to say. A slight adjustment of the wheel, a little swerve. I've straddled hundreds. The rearview mirror confirms I am not flawed. Even so, every evening their carnage tars the blacktop. Christ, it must be so that we, like roads, are divided. Those who in compassion swerve, and those who swerve away from it. Let's see. Very short poem. It actually rhymes. It's called April Cries. Just in case you get a little bit too romantic about the spring, this is one to kind of put it into perspective, right? It's called April Cries. I'd forgotten what the young birds say when they tear the worm apart. Keep us hale and happy, brother. Fill us with your loving art. Don't force it, okay? Let's see. I kind of want to read. What is Dr. Fontenot?
Yes, sir.
What's our time situation?
You have plenty of time, about 10 or 15 minutes if you like it. And can I please ask one more time, if you're not ordering coffee, please don't talk. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Thank you. Okay, I'll give, how about this? We'll do an audience request. I have a poem about rain, and I have a poem about Alexandria. Which would you like to hear?
Rain.
Poem about
Keep it with the
Alexandria.
springtime, I think.
Keep it with the springtime. What do you mean?
Rain.
Okay. Okay, very good. Well, I'll go with Ray. Although I do like you're gonna miss the pit bull in the Alexandria poem. So, oh.
At the same time.
That would be amazing. All right. Well, okay. Maybe I'll do them both. They're kind of hypnotic though, so that's why I'm like, I don't want to. It's like sugar. You don't want to eat too much of it. Not that this is as good as sugar. Okay. Okay. This is called "Passing Through Rain, Louisiana on Highway 90." Don't ask why you come. The answer sinks back like the whole state into the sea. Blame it on the maps you believed. A road is never a way out if not a way in. Here you trace the century in architecture like layers of sediment. The peeling homes built up along a country road, the metal rails and rice mills baking and cooling in fickle weather, the line of storefronts neat as bankers that faced a major highway. Now, the interstate runs north of here and leads them to the Crows. If it's your luck not to live here, windows watch you as you pass, and all signs point you in the wrong direction. The diner is held together by grease and sighs. The old men hum "Every Man's a King" and feel beneath the tables for their youth. Only the hitchhikers own their names. On Sunday, the husbands smoke at the church door and the wives scourge pews with beads, praying for them. The one-star running back has moved his mom to Florida, and the town's only gold, the evening light on rice, fades every day. You'd like to think that despair, buried deep in a heart like this town, rises to a harvest of laughter, but only a shirtless man wearing a saint's cap and tilting a long neck of Dixie beer waves to every car that passes. You think you've seen his face before, but you can't remember. You've broken all the mirrors. If you want to hear, let's see. Yeah, what the heck? I'll go with some of these poems are stupid. Okay. I'll read the Alexandria poem. It's sort of in the same line. Has anybody been to Alexandria? No! Yeah. You been downtown Alexandria? How the hell did you get out? Yeah. I went there for a conference, an academic conference, and it shows up in here because it refers to beards, and the beards are these ridiculous professors that, none of our professors here, of course, are ridiculous, but these ones up there were. But it was so bizarre to be in, and really, this is kind of, so much of this stuff is true, but it's been kind of bent a little bit, all right? But the thing about the pit bull, it's true, okay? Okay, so at any rate, I'll go ahead and say it's called Fragments of Becoming in Downtown Alexandria. This city is a cyclone of one-way streets. The downtown dares you to leave it, and you drive off in the only direction you know, away. But the red brick roads spiral on themselves until you're back in your shoes before the doors of St. Francis Xavier. And again you try them, and again they remain fixed against you like an angry father's folded arms. Cars are useless. Abandoned, they line the streets and pray for someone to steer them into the river. The lives of this place spin like pine seeds, fragile with tongues. The lucky ones fall to the current and sink, or take root downriver in casinos. The luckless choke it out in local grounds. If any breaks, they sweep him up, dump him in a wagon, and drag him across the bridge to Pineville, where the tongues die. Your tongue is sore from all the biting. In the College of Beards, only syllogisms speak. If windows are eyes and eyes are empty, then Alexandria. You'd like to close your windows, keep the hotel room safe from the pit bull licking his balls on the roof. But you keep the premises awake for conclusions. But here, November drizzle will never finish rusting the pipes. Cone and needle flake into the river. The river moves like a rusty machine, eddies and undertows gearing the water towards some inevitable form you will find in the souvenirs on 3rd Street. The pub holds promise, and you touch the humid lacquer of the bar, hoping to leave your fingerprints, but they leave with you. The eyes of your hotel will close tomorrow, for good. You would like to conclude that rivers rust into arrest, that tongues receive a fragile promise. You would like to see the beards untenured. In autumn mist, 3rd Street shines beneath the eyes of dog. Read the signs. There is one way for you. You will become the souvenir of firmly folded red clothes. Can I read 3 more? Okay, I'll do 3 more. I'll do one. I always like to read one poem about my wife, because she's never read these readings. So, she knows. Okay. Anyway, she likes cats a lot. So, this poem is called Angela as Cat. Okay. She stretches and curls into indifference, but that is surface. The true lightning, blue at first stroke, prowling too around the house, eyes gemmed for any flutter of disorder. Then a dart, then a start. She's darting after dust, she's batting the frayed ends of cleanliness. A house cat then, who pummels my stomach to soften me, to prepare a place for herself, to establish a lap. Of course, there are rules which one must read. Tail twitch, anointing by the cheek, burial of the fang in flesh. Read and act accordingly. And then there is the long howl that terminates in up-curved pitch like a question, a reminder, actually, that the chaos of this house is not her litter, that she strayed here with mice on her breath, that she could, if need be, return to the hayfields and barns, the rusted trailers, where, wild once more, she would mark as Adam creation. All right, this one I'm very nervous about reading. This is a fairly new one. Okay, I have to say this requires a certain bit of explanation, especially the end. The end of this poem is the beginning of Nathan Abshire's Pine Grove Blues, the original recording. I would like to have been able to present to you maybe the full verse, but I can't do it yet. Okay, so that's my apology, but that's what's going to happen, okay? And it's called How I Became a Cajun, which is kind of odd because I've always been a Cajun, but the poem is really about a kind of recognition about that. You know, my dad grew up in Rain, and he grew up only speaking French, and he went to school. And, you know, what they did to Cajuns in the Depression at school, spoke French. And so he sort of distanced himself from that. And so it has been a long conversion for me to come to an understanding and a realization of what it is to be a Cajun. So it's called How I Became a Cajun. We can all be St. Paul, smashed on the side of the head by God's 2x4. Most of us never lie shaken in the dust, sight taken that we might see what has been all along before us. Even so, most insist on such a grand conversion, but some just turn around. It may be cloudy, early morning weekday, March, leaves not yet out of the trees. You may be doing something you've done 100 times, maybe 1,000. So often, you don't count them, the days, no more than you count the granules of sugar you dump each day into your cup of coffee. Community, dark. You may be driving some American interstate straddled by rice fields, heavy with water. The geese may be riding on the sky goodbye as they fly back north. Maybe your nose fills with the rich and awakening smell of skunk. And then accordion notes from your radio tiptoe on a fiddle's long drawn cry, and you are aware your fingers are playing the wheel. There is no reasoning with this. You just now know that your taste for salty, muddy things, for God's rejected creatures, crawfish, catfish, frog, was not bred into you. Worse, it was inflicted. It's not by choice that you admit your name is not Alleman, but something unpronounceable in Midwestern mouths. Through your tongue, though your tongue was cut away before you were born, the tongue you were given begins to twist and roll, and your lips flex in familiar new contortions, and at last a sound comes out of you, a voice that makes you tremble as though it descended from the sky into your suddenly recognized blindness, singing, "Ah, it's Saturday night! Eh, ha ha!" That was awful. All right, I'm going to do one more poem because you have been a very good audience and should not be subjected to any more. I generally tend to end my readings with this poem here, wherever the hell it is. Oh, there it is. Okay. It's actually the oldest poem that I still keep around. I always had a penchant when I was younger for being attracted to women who were sort of like, I don't know, you could call them very tragic women. They always had to have some kind of, you know, what? No, I don't know they were baggage, yes, but I mean, it was a certain kind of woman. They were all very dramatic, very, you know, very sad, tragic women, and this was one that I fell very hard for, and I wrote her this poem, and as always, whenever he's here, I dedicate this poem to Dr. Gallardo because he likes it so much. So it's called "The Secret of Conversation." In the cold shrugs of November, you sit at a coffee table with a broken glass top and eat sardines out of a can. One large glass shard balances erect like a knife. I have sunk into your sofa drinking a beer. You stare blankly at the little dead fish, the noisy wooden floor, the trunk we broke into, the hungering emptiness of the room, the glass shard. Then we talk of death, like it was a pillow, and every feather a blessing hand. But the bed is not yet made. We talk of death, but I really want to talk about your breasts. Their risings and fallings, how they're filled with blood, and how that blood stays warm even when the trees are undressing themselves. I wonder how I can think of your breasts when we're talking of death. I feel guilty, so I go to the bathroom. I've seen death before, but I've never seen your breasts. When I return, we talk about acting and about being 27 and having nothing to show for it, and about death. But all I can see is your brown cleavage heaving vivaciously with every breath. So when you say, I want to die, I say, keep breathing. Thank you.